in the reality of life itself, in the truth of all existence. You are the creation of God. There is no other creation that has occurred. The one creation of all life is what lives within you. You're here on this earth plane in the belief of separation, in the belief that you are your identity, your body, the time of existence lasts only so many years. All these are not the truth. And you've come here into this third dimension to remember, to awaken the truth within, and to surrender the mind back to God. The journey of opening the heart is a journey that has all the resistance and fear that everyone has incarnated with. The resistance to love, the resistance to opening the heart has been held upside down and inside out from the reality that there is really nothing to fear to remember love and to open the heart and surrender the mind. Love is calling you and pulling you to itself. It takes great resistance to stay defended. And yet eventually, every beloved will finally drop the swords of defense and accept the love that dwells within. It's hard to believe that we, in the belief of separation, would fight so diligently to stay separate and to protect and defend what is believed to be known from the past. But the promise of truth holds for you that as you truly surrender and return to peace and return home, you discover bit by bit that there was nothing to be frightened about, that all the fear was the great hoax, afraid of losing control is a game that the ego plays and has built a system that says that you do have control. But if you look with honesty at the past, you realize that the form of everything, the illusion, the temporary, shifts and changes constantly. and cannot be counted on to stay the same. The only thing that stays the same is love. Love is the constant. Love is reality. And in that truth of love, there's nothing to battle with. You come home to your divine self and discover that everything that truly exists is love, peace, and harmony as the expression of love. Joy as the expression of love is heaven. And it's here where you truly exist. There is a power of healing love that is disbelieved within the world, that the power of God can heal all the false identities that have been made just in merely surrendering to the power of God. The miracle of love is reality. It's a temporary reality while it's needed. Eventually, the miracles will no longer be needed when everything returns to its true reality and the dream falls away. But in this everyday life, it's about accepting and learning and embracing the love that is reflected in every beloved and in every element of life. And it reflects as you see outside and you judge outside, so it is that you judge yourself. All it is a mirror that lets you see your judgment of your true self. Imagine a day with no judgment. Imagine a day with no assessments or grievances, no right or wrong, and nothing even to plan or get, nothing to have to be at the call of. But imagine walking through the day with ease, in peace, and accepting that everything beyond what you think you see is all harmony, and opening to that harmony that lives within you. When you accept harmony within the everyday, you're awakening the harmony that you are. You're awakening the harmony and the joy and the peace that you are. And you're awakening the grandeur that you are. The grandeur of being is not a place of arrogance. It isn't a place of proving. It is a place of being. To accept your grandeur is to accept the grandeur of God. And to accept that there's only one. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone or anything. And in truth, you can't prove your worth. It's impossible. And to try is to diminish your worth. You have to be focused on an identity that is limited and not the grandeur of God. You have to believe that you are damaged. You have to believe that you are without all of the elements of perfection. You have to believe that you are flawed. And you have to believe that you are in competition within the world to prove your worth. The energy of competition is a very painful place. There's always a worry. There's always a belief that you need to improve. But what if you were made aware that if you never did anything in this time, in this lifetime, to prove your worth, if you never did anything to prove that you are a talent, that you are worthwhile, all of that is totally made up. If you never did one thing in the entire lifetime of this life, it would not change the grandeur of your existence. Your divine truth would still be exactly as it was for all eternity. Proving in this third dimension has absolutely no value to the grandeur of your being. It is completely held in its perfection. To accept that grandeur, that perfection of your being, is truly to no longer be willing to see yourself as a body. The body being the temporary form that has symbolized separation, is being called to be surrendered, truly surrendered, to be used by the Holy Spirit, so that you can demonstrate through the body your open heart and the purity of mind that has no judgment. Learning to use the body for comfort, for love itself, for kindness, for compassion, is its true purpose. But still, even as the body is used within the world, there is nothing to prove. And there is nothing that you have to do with the body that will increase your brilliance. Is there a difference between someone who is unable to move their body and someone who is proficient at using the body within the world? No. They are all the grandeur of God. And the body identity has no relation to that grandeur. Does your intelligence determine your grandeur? No. The mind of God is love. And the belief in intelligence within the world can be a tool that can be used for love if it's surrendered, but it does not denote your worth. Nor does it denote your ability to return to love. No one, no beloved is limited in remembering the truth of oneness. All beloveds are in divine equality in their journey home. So in this moment, the acceptance of your grandeur is not only a gift of kindness to your awareness, but it's a gift of kindness to humanity. There's no helpfulness in holding back the acceptance of your grandeur. There is no helpfulness in playing small. In the name of humility, because it does not use humility to be small. It is arrogance to pretend to be small. There is not an opposite of that. Smallness is from the ego, as is largeness. Grandeur is beyond all values and levels and degrees. There's a state of being that is completely the light of God. Don't be afraid to accept the grandeur within. And in that, all the grandeur of God only blesses every beloved as a reflection. There is no assessments or opinions or judgments in that grandeur. Only peace and joy and harmony. In the everyday life, the willingness to accept that only love exists. Only God is everything. So in this moment, the willingness to embrace heaven here on earth and to affirm that there is only the universe of love. Nothing else exists. What are you willing to see? What are you willing to offer? The return to love. There is only one presence here. On this earth plane, everything else is illusion other than the divine life force of God. The divine life force of God is all life itself and is the eternal light that is within. There is no other life except the oneness with God. The universe is all love, and therefore this sanctuary is filled with love. Nothing else exists here, nor is anything else invited. Only love. There is one heart, and everyone is returning to that awareness of one heart, one light, one love. Allow heaven to reveal itself to you by accepting that heaven is here. Only love. In this truth, there's a teaching in this prayer that may seem odd. The power of the rose. The power of the rose comes from an awareness that in the eternal heart, there is a flower that's waiting to bloom, that's waiting to be exercised and opened to its full capacity, to no longer be willing to be in the fear of the heart. The fear of the heart says, I have to be cautious. I have to be careful. And in that belief of caution and that belief of being careful, the heart has been pulled back, trying to protect the heart because of the belief that there is danger, that you can be hurt. And this is one of the biggest leaps, is to accept that you cannot be hurt. That all of the pain that has been experienced on this third dimensional plane has come from the mind that has self-attacked, that has self-criticized, self-judged. And all of that is being called to be truly surrendered. The power of the rose is the power of the heart, is the power of our love that comes from our mother. The power of the rose, of the heart of each of us, on the breast of all of us, to love one another. In the heart of each of us, there is one rose, to love our brothers and our sisters. The power of the rose comes from universal love, is the love and tenderness towards our brothers and our sisters. Brothers and sisters, let's open our rose. Let's join our hands. Let's love one another. The love of the rose is the love of brotherhood, is the justice and love, joy and charity, the blissful love that springs from the heart is opening our rose to love one another. If you see the heart as a rose, it's much easier to invite it to open, invite it to bloom, invite it to blossom, and be available to offer that love, to love one another, to no longer be afraid and hold back tentatively in the fear of damage, but to make that leap to learn to love. And all of the sacred teachings are always calling every beloved to have the courage to take that leap and open the heart. On the paths of love, all divine beings are calling us to open our hearts so that we can be love. On the paths of truth, everyone needs to pay attention so that we can all be together as one, opening the heart. Let us all surrender to the heart of the Divine Mother. This is a moment of humility, of forgiveness, and of charity. Let us all be together in this moment of truth as we affirm love and firm ourselves in the charity of offering love. Let us follow the truth, all of us united. Let us sing and dance so the divine will materialize. Here we are all on the path of love, living from our faith and affirming the truth of all divine beings that serve our remembering. O Divine Mother, you are my comfort. You show me the way to love with faith and with health so that we all arrive at the door of love itself. Nos caminhos do Senhor, Jesus Cristo Redentor, abriu nosso coração para podermos seu amor. Nos caminhos da verdade, a que prestar atenção, para estarmos todos juntos para louvar o coração. Vamos todos nos seguir nesta hora da verdade. Temos o Santo Cruzeiro para afirmar e caridade. Vamos todos nos caminho, Jesus Cristo Salvador, vivendo de nosso fé aos pés de Cristo Redentor. Ó Virgem Mãe Divina, pois sois o conforto meu, dai amor, fé e saúde para podermos chegar. These teachings, these hymns, these prayers are calling to not forget in the everyday life your true purpose, to continue to, in every moment, surrender all judgments and surrender all opinions, and to be especially aware of the habits of the ego that love to self-criticize, love to judge behaviors within the world, including your own, and wanting to be the judge of that rather than questioning, what is this for? What am I afraid of? What am I believing in? And in that compassion, in that kindness, healing can occur. And the judgments and the assessments can fall away. Because all that they really have as a purpose is to imprison. The ego's intention is to imprison your mind and imprison your heart in staying fearful, staying afraid of love. And there is no judgment, no assessments, no opinions in love, none at all. So this is the great healing that is everyone's journey of let us follow the truth, all of us united, singing and dancing, so that the divine will materialize and be recognized in our heart. And I promise you that in that surrender of judgments and opinions, your heart will open. There will be nothing left to keep it closed, and the mind will be freed and returned to God. This is the way of love. If God invited you to a party and said, everyone in the ballroom tonight will be my special guest, how would you treat them when you arrived? Indeed, indeed, and all the masters know that there is no one in this world who is not dancing upon the jeweled dance floor of God. If everyone is being invited to the party and God is doing the inviting, how would you treat each one? This is a question that is extremely helpful to open the heart, open the mind, because the addiction to the judgments and the opinions of others' behaviors is one of the favorite elements of the ego to stay separate. It's very tempting to continue the habit of opinions because they have a belief within them that you know something. All assessments and judgments and opinions give you a false sense that you're aware of something that needs to be in awareness. That somehow just accepting and offering love to each beloved is somehow a wimpy thing. And that to have judgments and opinions and know things is a proof of your insightfulness. But this is the game that the ego plays with judgment and opinions and assessments, because the game that's going underneath is that all of the judgments and assessments, whether they're a self criticism or they're a criticism of someone that seems to be outside you, it gives you a false sense that you know something and that these are important elements. But what you don't see is that every judgment and assessment of every situation, of every beloved, is keeping you in fear because it engenders fear. As soon as there's an assessment or a judgment, your identity becomes fearful and it becomes hooked into guilt. This is why private thoughts are usually staying private and not being spoken. But just because they're kept as private thoughts doesn't mean that you don't suffer from them. You do suffer from them, in not just from the fear, but in the sense of separation. Because to believe that you are separate from all beloveds is to not be at home. It's not to be in your natural state. And when God is calling a party and inviting everyone to that party, which is coming home, it is a question, how would you then treat them when you arrive? Do you embrace them all as the divine equality of love and make no distinctions on whether you think you know someone or you don't know someone, or how they appear to be, or their behaviors, or even their resistances? Do you slough them off because they don't have personality? There's all kinds of different ways that everybody is assessing and judging. And what happens with assessments and judgments is that when you are aware of your own judgments and assessments, then you become afraid of others' judgments and assessments. You become afraid that they carry the same judgments and assessments, but that they're directed at you. And that's where the whole system stays in place. The ego system stays in place very easily because you're not going to open your heart and be available for love when you might be afraid that someone else is judging you and may think less of you because of your openness. This is all a game that the ego plays, of having thoughts all the time of strategies and different ways of being within the world that have been produced for a defense. From the moment every beloved incarnates, it's developing a defense system of protection from the unknown. And then in the spiritual journey, the call is to really begin to surrender all of that defense system that's been built in the name of protection. So when God invites you to a party and says, everyone in the ballroom tonight will be my special guest, what does the ego do with that? The ego not only judges, but starts comparing. Who is really worthy of being God's special guest? Who has proven their worth enough to be God's special guest? This is what the ego mind likes to play with. But there's no love there, and there's no truth, and there is no judgment in God. So everyone who is invited is perfect because they are the creation of God. And this is what every beloved is being called to accept, of every beloved. That there is no one that is not invited into the light with God. Every beloved is that light and has to be accepted as that light. There's a beautiful teaching that says, love holds no grievances. Love holds no grievances. And sometimes there's a belief that grievances are just from people's beloved's behaviors, that you would have a grievance. But it's also situations. When you are afraid of a situation, when you are afraid of or resistant to a particular situation because you think you're not going to like it or it's not going to suit you, that's a grievance. It blocks your flow of love and your awareness of love. In the awareness of love holds no grievances, there is also a prayer that goes with that that says, let me not betray myself. Well, how is a grievance betraying yourself? Because it's a lie. It's already formulated itself and it has no truth in it. And in that, you are betraying yourself by accepting that grievances are real and valid. The belief in grievances hooks in so easily to the belief of being unfairly treated. It's like a cause and effect. If you believe that you're unfairly treated by the world in whatever way, you got shortchanged in your past, you got shortchanged in your abilities, you got shortchanged in your life itself or whatever. To believe that you're unfairly treated is to hold a grievance against yourself. To believe that you're a victim and can be unfairly treated by the world in any way is to be stuck in an identity that has no truth and no relationship to your true identity. Let me not betray myself. Well, nobody is walking around thinking that they're betraying themselves. It's all about protection and defense. And you wouldn't think that trying to protect yourself and defend your heart and judge and have opinions would be a betrayal of yourself. But it's a betrayal of your true self, because your true self cannot hold any grievances, cannot have any opinions or judgments, and cannot be unfairly treated. None of that is possible in the truth of who you are. There are many times in the spiritual journey where you actually defend, everybody has done this, defend your right to be unfairly treated. That you're right. It's a right and you're right. And it can be tenacious, that you don't want to let go of the belief that you have been unfairly treated. There are beloveds that, even in the pain of situations that they feel unfairly treated, are still reluctant in that pain to make the leap of faith that this need not be. that they could choose the truth of God and peace and harmony and open their hearts and refuse to accept that they're being unfairly treated. The power of that choice is resisted because it seems easier sometimes to stay in the belief that you're a victim or that you're being unfairly treated or that grievances have validity. It's not making the connection between pain and choice, that you have this power within you to choose. And that power is a gift from God. It's a temporary gift. Because in the journey of remembering, once you remember, there's no more choice because everything is love. But until then, the choice is essential. And the choice is where you connect to the power of love, the power of the rose that dwells in your heart. You connect with that and you make that choice to refuse the grievances, refuse to see yourself as unfairly treated. And in that choice, you will experience a healing. You will experience a transformation. It may be just an element of it. It may not be the whole enchilada of believing that you're unfairly treated, but you've opened the door to refusing the lie of being unfairly treated or the grievances that were probably in the past a weapon that was held very tightly. Every past is basically the same. One of the teachings that I was shown early on was that I did not ever have an original thought. That there were no thoughts that I had that were original at all. The same as everyone else's, which is why universal teachings can be universal teachings, because everybody's mind of the ego is basically the same. Some have a stronger attachment to grievances, and others have a stronger attachment to being right, and and yet everybody carries them all. But in that, the relationship with grievances is almost like living in your own soap opera. It's your soap opera that from the moment you wake up in the morning in the unconscious state, not in the conscious spiritual journey, but in the unconscious state, you wake up in the morning and almost immediately begin to look at the world with grievances, looking for the grievances of what's wrong, what's missing, what you don't have, what you wish it was like, but you don't have it. That's the unconscious state. And it's a very painful state. And then the belief comes in of believing that with these grievances, if you play the game that you believe is helpful, you play the game of being nice and good within the world, and nobody is seeing your grievances. You're not that obvious, but you play a game of nice and good. Where does that come from? It's the fear of the grievances. It's the fear of expressing the grievances because they're filled with guilt. Jealousy is a great element of grievances. Comparisons, which is where jealousy comes from. To compare what you have, how you're treated, what you get in the world, how people see you, all of that is part of the grievance package. And it again keeps you in pain because God is inviting everyone to the party. There are no exceptions. There is no one to battle with. There is no one to compare with. And there are no situations that are less than a place of deep learning, because it's their only purpose. The purpose within the world, or the purpose within the ego world, is right and wrong. This is a good outcome, this is a bad outcome. This is a good situation, this is a bad situation. I like this situation, I don't like that situation. That's all part of the grievance package too. But God is calling you to take every situation, as well as each beloved, and recognize that it's all for learning. Each relationship is for learning. Learning to love, learning to see each one coming to the party as the reflection of God, to see each one without having any opinions about how they should live their life, how they should be, what they should know, how they behave, and any of it. A grievance is a favorite of the ego because one of the main teaching of love that almost every master speaks to is the truth of not having any opinion or business about how someone else is living their life, what they're walking through, or what they are doing with their lives. The ego truly wants to be the decider of what one is doing or whether it's acceptable or not. And it absolutely has no value in learning to love. Absolutely none. There is a master who said, it's none of your business what anyone else is doing. Mind your own business. How many lifetimes, 200, 500, do you want to spend being the judge of other people's lives? It's not, that is not a call for love. The call for love is to recognize that each beloved first and only is the light of God. And from that place of acceptance that they are the light of God, the Holy Spirit can then open you to an awareness of what would be most helpful for you to bring to them, if anything. But first and foremost is holding each beloved as the light of God. Innocent, pure, unchanged by identity at all. How would you treat them? There is no one in this world who is not dancing upon his jeweled dance floor. No one is left out. So how is that possible that no one would be left out of the party of love, when you see differences in levels and degrees, and the tendency might be to say, well, they're not ready yet, they're not available yet, they're not up to the challenge. But that ego identity has no bearing at all on anyone's journey. And all that it will do in assessments and opinions will be to limit your awareness of the truth of love, of the power of the rose, of opening to all beloveds, and no longer being willing to guard your heart out of the need to be defended in some way. There's a beautiful teaching that says, when you put conditions on love, you experience the conditions and not the truth of love. So this is the subtlety of assessments and opinions. You put a condition on love, so you're not going to offer love completely. You put a condition on it dependent on the form that they are living in. And in that, you experience the conditions that you have placed on them, and you don't experience the truth of love. You can't connect with their innocence and purity because you have a condition that you have placed in between yourself and the beloved. This is the subtlety of the ego's games, and it loves these conditions. So we don't say, love with conditions is the way to open your heart. No, it's truly letting go of the conditions, that you are not being called or asked, or that it has any helpfulness to hold on to any conditions, but to just offer love and to see with love without conditions. Because it is a guarantee that if you put a condition on your acceptance of anyone, that's all you see is the conditions. You can't see anything else but what you've placed on them. Will your life be boring without conditions, without judgments, without assessments? The ego would like you to believe that it will be boring, that you won't have interesting thoughts anymore that will keep you interested. As if your interesting thoughts of assessments, how many times, everybody has done this, but how many times have you been in a relaxed place and you think of someone and you just kind of go through assessments of them? What they're doing that you like, what they're doing that you don't like, what they should be doing, what would be better if they would do it this way, or what's wrong with them, why don't they do it in a more reasonable way, whatever. The mind loves its own entertainment. And that's part of the entertainment package, is to assess behaviors of others. But you're being called to go deep. You're being called to open the heart and let the flower bloom and not be reserved, but to offer that unconditional love that says to each beloved, you are the light of God. You're not necessarily saying the words, but this is what's in your heart. And this is what is in your mind. Is that truth? And that you're not willing to entertain anything else. If you can accept that love does not change, it doesn't change from person to person. It does not change from situation to situation. Love is in its totality. And when you are learning to love and open your heart, you're actually moving against the habit of being cautious, of being pulled back some. And the Holy Spirit is calling you to extend, expand, open. And the ego will try to convince you that that's really uncomfortable and that you don't really want to. But yet, you're still being called to expand your heart, open your heart. Consciously, truly open that. Love exists independent of the form of the situation. It's independent. It has nothing to do with the form of the situation. So at the beautiful party that God is throwing, you're being asked to come without having any opinions about anything and not putting any limitations independent of the form, of anyone's form, of anyone's doing, of anyone's reciprocity. The ego depends on reciprocity. It wants evenness. It does not want to move forward and expand the heart and open unless there's a guarantee that the other is going to open in the same way. That's the fear that's running. And really, God is calling every beloved to be the fool, to extend that love, even though every other beloved may not be ready to extend that love. But you're called in the sanity of love to open and express that love without reservation. The grandeur of God that you are, to accept that grandeur is to realize you can't hold a grievance and open to the grandeur that is within you. The pride and grandiosity of the ego wants to make it about the right to have grievances, the right to have opinions, the right to have assessments. And in truth, there is no way that you can open to the grandeur of your heart and still have an opinion. They can't be together. And what would you want an opinion for anyways? I mean, that's really the key, is what are all those opinions for? That I carried thousands of opinions. I carried assessments. I prided myself in being able to assess. But it was all fear. It was all resistance to love and not wanting to open the heart. And love is calling you to completely open the heart and not to any more live in that belief that grievances are legitimate and that assessments are legitimate. Can you stop the habit of the assessments? Yes, with prayer, with surrender, of really wanting, of having a prayer in your heart. I'm willing to let go of these assessments. I'm willing to let go of the opinions. I'm willing to let go of all grievances. I don't know how. Show me the way. And Spirit will show you the way because it's what you truly want. And it's to keep remembering that as you let those go, your heart becomes joyful. Your heart becomes happy. It's such a a letting go of being unburdened by the addiction to grievances. Grievances are the favorite of beloved's pride. Pride says, I know what's wrong. I know how everybody should be. I know what's going on. But it's really just a place of pain, because pride is a place of pain. Pride says, I have to build a better identity, but it's still held in this limited awareness of your perfection. Your perfection does not need to be built as a better identity. You are the light of God. You are perfect, you are whole, you are complete. And everyone is that light. Nothing else is true. And there is no danger in this world that holds you prisoner, except by the choice of being held prisoner through grievances and assessments and opinions. To really realize that there's nothing happening out in the world, that it's all coming from your mind. Every single element of reaction, of upset, is programmed in the mind. And that's where the healing is, to surrender the mind and all of the ideas that go through the mind. Will you be bored without the mind to play its game? No. There's no boredom in joy. There's no boredom in peace, in harmony, love. That's a fabrication of the ego, and that's one of its favorite grievances, is the fear that it holds over each beloved of being bored without the excitement of opinions. And none of it is actually the truth at all. None of it. Each beloved is afraid of coming to the party. They're afraid to come to the party and be judged. And most beloveds believe that God will judge first and foremost. But there is no judgment in love. There is no judgment in God. It's all being made in the mind that believes that grievances are legitimate. You have to be open to the forgiveness, the true forgiveness of love, that you're willing to forgive yourself for every grievance that you've held in the past. And everybody's held them. Everybody has assessed the past and who treated you unfairly, who didn't give you what you believed you deserved. All of the story of the illusion is being called to be forgiven. That it was not the truth, that it had no reality, and that nightmare, that dream is over. You can wake up from it, because it's just a dream. But to truly forgive is to set your own heart free. To forgive each beloved that you believed and you held as holding a grievance to, and having an idea of what they were and what they did. It has no value, and all it does is keep you a prisoner in your own identity. And it's time to let the forgiveness really enter your heart and truly forgive every situation, every beloved that you've believed treated you unfairly or didn't give you what you thought you deserved. It's all the story. Everybody's story is all connected, even though they seem very individual. And that's where the assessments and the opinions and the grievances began. Keeping score is a favorite pastime of the ego. And the score has to be burned up and let go. To really accept the blessings, the grace, the sweetness, the peace that is here and is who you are in your divine grandeur. To no longer be believing that there are some that are invited to the party that are worth more than others. It's a game that God is asking and calling each beloved to let go of and come and join in the party of love, open-hearted, without reservation, without caution, without suspicions, but with kindness, compassion, joy, and acceptance. That's where the healing is. That's where your choice is. Learning to love. Learning to love without fear is the blessed journey here.
Just taking